that flows through the quest, and then there is a reality show that weaves through at the same time. So the kids, the contestants, the teen contestants, are being surprised at all times, and their reactions are entirely natural and real.
Wow. And one more follow-up. The trailer shows a lot of special effects. It's bonkers. Like, it's amazing. It looks great. Can you tell us about what is that aspect, the special effects like?
Sure. Well, there were sort of two kinds of special effects, right? Because when the paladins were on set, we didn't create visual effects done in post-production that required them to interface with it, because we didn't want them pretending to react to anything.
Okay.
So there are visual effects that enhance the experience for the viewer that are either caused or indirectly caused by things that happen. So, and then there are effects that happen that are not as featured in the trailer, that are actually practical, that happen in camera, live, or the paladins, they have organic reactions.
So in the trailer, there's a moment where Toshani, a young woman, goes, "Guys, look," and then there's this big visual effect. We had a light, the actual a practical light that lit up when they succeeded at something that went up into the sky.
So that's what she was responding to.
So it was their cue that something had worked, and it was just as magical for them in the moment. Now they haven't seen the final product. Their minds will be blown because they'll see that in our fantasy world it was even more extreme.
Wow, it's fun. I love it already.
Well, we love it too.
So this year it's teens. How do you pick the teens? Is it personality? Do they go through a test?
So we had an amazing casting team that scoured the country.
Yeah.
For the first sort of test was, do you love fantasy? Like, are you somebody that loves this world? Because, it's a gift. They get to play in this world. We wanted people that would be really excited.
Yeah.
And then it was, kids that showed, heroism in their own lives, even though they're still teenagers, or bravery, or strength, and like some of the values of what we thought the one true hero should have.
And kids that were outgoing, who you sensed would really, as Jane said, really take advantage of this world that they were going to get to inhabit.
Your casting for this was incredible, because I wouldn't have known that those kids were playing in a reality show. Those guys are straight up actors, even unintentionally, and I think that's fantastic. What would you say the biggest differences between working with teens and adults?
Well, we also teens right after a global pandemic, so they arrived after being home for a year. So there was a couple of days where we just had to let them talk it out.
They were so excited to be able to be with other kids after a year.
So all the wonderful experience for them, not great television, but then they really started calming down and relaxing, and you could understand what they were saying to each other because they were talking so fast. I think that with teenagers, I think that they're in a way even more inquisitive than grown-ups. And if you tell a teenager that they have a chance to be the one true hero, they want to get in there. So I think maybe a slight impatience to get to the answers. I think that would be, to me, the biggest difference between adults and teenagers, which I think plays out in real life too.
There's been a huge upswing in fantasy material recently. Shows like Critical Role, shows like tabletop games. Did any of that influence you guys bringing the show back, or did there's such a rise in fantasy now with everybody creating these unique characters? Was that on your mind at all, or was it just a right place, right time?
It was really, the DNA of the show was so organically founded in I read Lord of the Rings books when I was 12 years old. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, old school tabletop D&D.
He still has a game.
And still play that game.
He's the dungeon master for a game that he's been playing since he was 14.
Since 1978.
Wow.
Yeah, with the same group of guys.
Wow.
So those things, in a weird sort of way, the culture never left. It just kind of ebbed and flowed in kind of popularity and visibility. But it was always.
Yeah, it wasn't. Really, what influenced us making it is that Disney had an appetite to bring something back that was really near and dear to our heart, and their vision of what we were doing was really aligned. Because we wanted to push the way the story is told in a much more aggressive way. And God willing, we get another season, and we're going to push it even further. It's just an exciting thing for the six of us to get back in there and push the format.
How much creativity did Disney allow you to have? Did they give you a wide breadth to work within?
Oh yeah,
It was ours. Yeah, they really let us go, and they actually were really surprisingly wonderful about us putting in. We have some Easter eggs.
Yes.
That are Disney Easter eggs, and we were gobsmacked that they let us and encouraged us. So look through.
Yeah.
They're subtle.
Yeah.
But they're there, and they were so supportive of this. And this is the first show, and I'll let Disney speak to it, but this is the first show that they're doing in this hybrid, and there are other producers that in different genres that are doing this. So it's a big step forward for what Disney Plus and Disney branded television wants to do in the reality space.
Really, their only guidance was the age of the contestants. That's really the only that's the one thing that they were sort of like, this is one thing we'd like. But apart from that,
They were really wonderful partners. It was a dream and continues to be.
Disney prides itself on unique and immersive environments that stir the imagination and allow people to put themselves at the heart of the stories that not only that they want to tell, but also that represent people. How does Disney's work touch each of you? I mean, it must have been, as you told him, it must have been a dream partnership, but is there something about Disney that, you saw that and you were like, oh, I remember when I was a child and I loved such and such? Or...
Yeah, I mean, Disney is, I said it at the panel, Walt Disney wanted to make imagination real. The show wants to make imagination real. Like, we can't imagine a better partner. And they understand probably better than anybody else the idea of taking real people and putting them in fantasy worlds, and the buy-in that happens when you give people that experience. I mean, we've all been to 5 minutes away to the park, and we all run around like we're 10. It doesn't take that much, and they armed us to come with a lot at these kids, so they're really transported.
And speaking of the imagination, like we saw like goblins and like
there's stuff.
yeah.
How much like time and prosthetic work and
Well, Spectral Motion, who's headed up by Mike Gilizaldi, does a lot of Guillermo del Toro's monsters. We've been blessed enough to work with him on multiple things. He and his team, we gave them very early descriptions of some of the creatures that we were interested in populating this world with, and they came back with drawings, and then it sort of evolved from there. But I think that they worked pretty solidly for about 6 months, and then we cast creature actors, and then their process. It takes a full day for these creatures to become themselves.
Yeah.
But they would show up. We would be shooting something else, and they would show up just for us to see, and it would terrify you because you'd be like walking through the castle, and then all of a sudden there was a creature for us as producers to like sign off on, and they are. It's very visceral.
Yeah.
Can you go into the training that the kids have to go through, the various training?
Well, the funny thing is we didn't, unlike Lord of the Rings, we purposely didn't train them. So whatever training they have manifests inside the show.
Really?
Now, obviously, in the course of editing, not all of that made it into the cuts of the show, but literally they had training. Some of it you see in the trailer, where they basically, the training
They train on swords, they train on maces, they train in a little bit of archery, obviously
horses.
lots of map.
So this is during the show,
During
not
the show.
not a pre-boot camp or anything.
No.
They showed up cold.
They show up, that's the whole idea. They show up cold and they are dropped into this world as would-be prophesied heroes, and all that comes with it. So they are blank slates.
What a paradise for teenagers.
Oh my
Amazing,
gosh.
amazing, and it's fun. It was fun to watch them grow. I mean, literally, they grow up in front of your very eyes. It's wild what It's not that long a period of shooting, and they really transform.
And to talk a little bit about the immersive element of things, like we won't give the details away, you'll watch it, but like there are training sessions, right, where they're training, and then scripted characters and storylines move through something that they are doing. Now, you may pay attention to it, you may not. You're busy doing your sword training, you're not focusing, you are. So like little things like that you start to see.
And it starts becoming, as we go through the season, it gets more and more integrated, because as storytellers, we weren't sure the audience would buy into it if we did it right away.
Right.
So we built towards it.
Right.
But if we get another chance, we're going to go right in pretty early
earlier.
into that intersection. But you'll see by 6, 7, and 8, they and the scripted characters are on the same adventure. It's cool.
Fascinating.
So, I mean, I have 1,000,001 questions. I'm very interested in building immersive environments. Without going into details, you did mention that there's other things in development like this. I know, as someone who observes the parks on a regular basis, that's in essence what the parks are doing with the new hotel and everything else. Fantasy is obviously a very real dream project for you guys. If you had to pick a second dream project, like say a space immersive or...
It's funny. I mean, we actually already have in our back pocket probably 2 space ideas, a horror idea. So we'll see. Let's get the quest sort of launched first, and then we'll let the Dream Factory go. But they're working with other creators as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, which I'm sure you'll be hearing about.
Perfect.
As they roll them out.
This is a fun thing. It's very good.
Yeah, it's fun and it's good natured, and I think we need that right now.
So who develops the scripts, the overall scripts for the adventures?
It's a bit of a group effort. It's really establishing the world. They're not scripts in the same way that you might think they are. I mean, some stuff's very traditional, but a lot of it is setting up situations and conflict. So our scripted characters will come in and create conflict for the kids, and then the kids will have whatever their response is to it, and then usually that will launch into some form of the quest.
And that's where the world building and these deep bios that were created by our producing partners, Eric Newman and Candace Lee, because that way people, when they are given this mission of like, all right, go do this, that people can act consistently with their scripted characterization.
And then we did, when we saw something happening with the contestants, we would have the scripted characters talk about it. And all of that was blank space until we started.
Yeah, we didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
We hoped it was going to
Great
happen.
idea. Great concept.
Thanks for talking with us, guys.
No, our pleasure.
Yeah, our pleasure.
All right, thanks.